Now, President Biden is already back on the campaign trail one day after delivering his State of the Union address. He's putting his focus now on battleground states, campaigning Friday in Philadelphia before heading to 3 other key election states. CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang has more from the trail.
Tonight, President Biden kicked off an intense month on the campaign trail at a rally outside Philadelphia.
Let's talk about the future we can build because we have more to do.
From Pennsylvania, the president heads to Georgia tomorrow, then Michigan and Wisconsin next week, battleground states where the Biden campaign is pouring resources with a $30 million media blitz over the next 6 weeks. Plans to open roughly 100 field offices and more than tripling the number of staff members. Republicans are making moves too. Today, installing former President Donald Trump's daughter-in-law and one of his top allies as leaders of the RNC. President Biden did not say Trump's name during his State of the Union address last night.
My predecessor came,
but called him out more than a dozen times, accusing Trump of bowing down to Vladimir Putin.
I think it's outrageous. It's dangerous and it's unacceptable.
Mr. Biden was energized and feisty, sparring with House Republicans over legislation to secure the border.
Oh, you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing.
In front of many lawmakers wearing white in support of women's reproductive rights, the president said he would protect abortion rights. Senator Katie Britt of Alabama delivered the Republican response from an unusual setting, her kitchen table.
I worry my own children may not even get a shot at living their American dreams.
Britt criticized President Biden for being too weak against foreign adversaries as the war in Gaza remains a top campaign issue. Over a hot mic after the speech, he shared his frustration with a Democratic senator over the exploding humanitarian crisis and Israel's prime minister.
I told him, baby, show me pieces. Baby, you know I can't come. Sure, just
Nancy Cordes asked Vice President Kamala Harris about the tension.
Are the Israelis at risk of losing U.S. aid if this continues?
We always have to stand for the security of Israel and its people, and also to do what we have done behind closed doors and in public around forcing a better path forward in terms of what's happening currently in Gaza.
President Biden has been pushing for a temporary ceasefire in Gaza as part of an agreement to release hostages. But tonight, he says it looks like it will be tough to close the deal by the start of Ramadan next week. And he is worried that that could lead to violence in East Jerusalem. Michael?
Weijia, President Biden has been more vocal in recent days about providing aid to Gaza and calling for a ceasefire. Why are we seeing that now, and do you think he'll go further?
Well, he has been calling for a temporary pause in the fighting for several months now because he wants to get this hostage deal done. But you are absolutely right about turning up the pressure even more. I can tell you why. For one reason, there are hundreds of protesters outside of this school where he just held a campaign rally. He has seen voters respond at the ballot box as well, with over 100,000 people in the key state of Michigan voting uncommitted in the Democratic primary instead of him. And he knows that he is losing support in his base, support that is critical for him as he launches this campaign. And so he is under so much pressure, Michael, to say to the Arab American and Muslim American community, I hear you. In fact, that is the message from the campaign, that we hear you, we know that you are upset, and that is why you're seeing him ramp up action, whether it is dropping aid by air for the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, whether it's creating a new seaport, which he announced last night at the State of the Union. He wants to be able to tell his supporters who deeply care about the exploding humanitarian crisis in Gaza that he is trying to do whatever he can, especially, Michael, as the UN warns that Gaza is on the brink of famine.
And Weijia, on the topic of the campaign, what more can you tell us about the Biden campaign's month of action, kicking off with those major campaign stops that you reported on?
Yeah, he is going to be fanning out across the country in addition to his surrogates, so members of the cabinet as well as the First Lady, really trying to deliver this message that, there's a lot at stake if the former president wins the election. And that really is the bottom line here. It's what we heard last night from the State of the Union address and what we will continue to hear, these attacks on Trump. But as it relates to policy, not necessarily going after Trump and his character that is questionable to some, but after what they believe will really hurt Americans if the president were to lose the election, when it comes to reproductive rights, when it comes to voting rights, when it comes to the economy, when it comes to democracy. And so that is why you are seeing this massive push. And I can tell you right now, they have a robust operation. They are very cash rich. They just had one of their biggest fundraising days ever after the president delivered his speech. And that's very different from the Trump campaign that is cash poor as he tries to deal with all of those lawsuits that we've been talking about. And so you can really expect the Biden campaign to turn up the message in those critical swing states where they believe they can win the election.
Weijia Jiang, thanks for your reporting.
Sure.